Go. So my interest, or I guess you could say obsession, is an odd mosaic within a heavy concrete frame applied to a remnant wall that stands next to a few tennis courts in a Sausalito park, maybe where you'd least expect to find it. My obsession is also the cultural network behind the mosaic and its creator. So I'm interested in this because I understand it as a just kind of strange remnant of the somewhat strange and really not so distant world of the 1960s. This mosaic's original location was within the portico of the Villa Roma Motor Hotel in San Francisco. Nameless as far as I can tell, the mosaic was designed in the early 1960s by the Sausalito-based painter, collagist, and all-around libertine Jean Varda, and executed in tile by Alfonso Pardinas. To be honest, I don't really know what's going on in this mural. It's kind of a weird, fantastical Roman or Venetian scene. But the Villa Roma was quite a one-of-a-kind building, built in 1961, designed by Anshin and Allen. It cost over $1 million for only 60 units. So notice this portico of the stilts that are mirrored up at top with the light standards in that central tower that almost looks like a precursor to Sutro Tower. And this is really, honestly, a hotel for the exhibitionists, as you can tell. And the mosaic was right next to the entrance at the ground floor. I've seen some references to it as the Rusty Donut. Here's Jean Varda as a somewhat younger man compared to what we'll see later. He was born in present-day Turkey in 1893, and he received some training as an artist and gravitated eventually towards more abstraction, but kind of the boundaries between abstraction and figuration, and his really preferred methods were in collage, where he used fabric and paint and paper ephemera and things like that. And the motifs that you really see much in his life were cityscapes, landscapes, and everyday people. But he also had a pretty strong interest in mosaics, which he developed first in the 1930s when he was doing small scale work. But in the 1960s, with the Villa Roma and other projects, he had the opportunity to see them implemented on a larger and public scale. So here's an example from the Stockton Public Library. So Jean Varda in 1967, this presentation is obviously about fashion, because here we go. When he moved to the US in the 1930s, he was in New York, and then he eventually moved to California, wound up in Sausalito in the 40s, and became a figurehead in the beat era and counterculture era houseboat community in Sausalito. And he was, often surrounded by admirers. So this image shows him with a few. The man at center is Alfonso Pardinas, a Mexican-born muralist who moved to the Bay Area and quickly, literally floated in the same circles as Varda. He owned the company Byzantine Mosaics, and these are a few of the projects that Byzantine Mosaics was responsible for. I was shocked to see they worked on a Safeway, but that really shows his kind of characteristic sinewy design. But he also collaborated with Varda on a few public projects, including a couple, the Villa Roma mosaic, as well as a couple of these heavenly cities that are in the Union City BART station, one of which you see here, and that opened in 1972. I think that these are interesting as a continuation of a public mosaic tradition that you see in the Bay Area that uses really vibrant colors. At left is the Paramount Theater in Oakland. Timothy Pfluger. At right is the Bank of America building in downtown San Mateo. And what's really different between Varda, Varda leaned towards abstraction and not these grand allegories and historical narratives. But I also want to talk about Varda's cousin's daughter, Agnes Varda, a French filmmaker who moved to California with her husband in the 1960s. And she made a short documentary called Uncle Yanko in 1967 that documenting her first meeting of her cousin Jean. She visited Sausalito and she filmed him in his environment when he was surrounded by all these, summer of love, pretty young things kind of holding court. And you really get the impression of how his artwork extended into his everyday life and everyday environments. So like this tableau against the window is really similar to the types of cityscapes that you see in his collage paintings and in his mosaics at the time. So obviously he was very much into color and became a well-known artist in the Bay Area at that time. He died in 1971 in Mexico City. But and since that time, his reputation is, or it's just kind of, he's just kind of faded a little bit from memory. And the Villa Roma outlasted him by about a decade. But in 1982, the building was demolished, and some of his friends banded together, raised some funds, and were able to save this apparently 23-ton section of the wall at the motel. They hauled it across the Golden Gate Bridge, put it in storage, and gave it to the city of Sausalito, which eventually in 1988 installed it in Marin Ship Park. So over the years of being exposed to the elements, it weathered some and saw some damage. But over the last several years, the community has again taken the charge of raising money and has undertaken a restoration campaign. I love the backside of this section of wall because I actually think it's kind of more interesting than the front. I think that this is actually this is a better imprint of the Villa Roma than exists anywhere else. And is kind of an interesting and unintentional collage of ghost markings and remnant finishes. So there's a lot more to say about Jean Varda and his community in Sausalito in this particular project, but I only have a few minutes here. So I really just want to make a plug for the Agnes Varda film. It's highly, highly entertaining. And that's probably my true obsession. So there you go.